IGN is really going to bat for Microsoft. It seems like they've become quickly infatuated with what Microsoft has to offer. Maybe something along the lines of getting free Xboxes for review purposes or something along those lines has helped out. But at the end of the day, this is a completely different IGN than what we saw years ago with the Xbox One. And to Microsoft's credit, they've done a good job of turning things around. However, when it comes to blatantly obvious things like this, I feel like maybe IGN is being a little bit disingenuous, and I appreciate the people that brought this particular instance to my notice, because you normally wouldn't see this. But I can't wait to get into this topic because it does seem like IGN is capping pretty hard for Microsoft and the Xbox Series X. I can't wait to get into this topic. It's definitely a video you won't want to miss. Hey there everyone, I'm the Crapgamer, and of course this is Crapgamer Reviews, your home for gaming news, opinions, reviews, and much more. You'll probably notice all the cool changes around here, but that shouldn't stop you from giving us a like and possibly consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. Thank you so much for choosing to spend some of your free time with me and my silly YouTube channel. Now, obviously every generation we get promised all kinds of features. We get promised everything, and I've compared this before, but it's almost like the promises we get from politicians, where leading up to an election, they tell us everything we want to hear. We're going to get this, we're going to get that, it's going to end of this and the beginning of that, and things are going to change and all this kind of stuff. And then, you know, the person gets in office and literally nothing changes but the person and the name tag on the door. And in some cases, things can actually get worse, and you end up paying $3.50 a gallon of gas. So, you know, it's one of those things that you kind of have to, I guess, put up with. But for me personally, I always feel like when these companies make a lot of these promises, it's just kind of out there to get people excited, and I understand the need for that, but I also despise the lying and the misleading that these companies do when they do that oftentimes. Now, the big thing that we got promised this generation, if you guys remember, was the ray tracing, right? Ray tracing, we're going to see all kinds of ray tracing, and it's going to be great and all this kind of stuff. The problem is we haven't really seen a ton of ray tracing. We've definitely seen more ray tracing on the PlayStation 5 side for sure, and even in a lot of instances it's better on the PlayStation 5. But the interesting thing here is that IGN did a video, which of course I'm going to link, and you guys can check that out and let me know what you think. But in this video you have three people talking about the situation with ray tracing, and it has Ryan McCaffrey on there, Jonathan Dornbush of the PlayStation podcast, and they also have Damon Hatfield, and he seems to be kind of like moderating and talking about, you know, the games that actually have ray tracing. The thing is, he lists the games, right? And on the PlayStation side, they're big exclusives. Spider-Man Miles Morales, Astro Bot, Spider-Man Remaster. Those games all have ray tracing. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, ray tracing. So on the Sony side, you have exclusives that actually have ray tracing. I'm talking like current gen games. And then he lists Xbox games, and it's like The Medium, which that's on PlayStation as well. Call of the Sea, that's on PlayStation as well. So the games that he lists on Xbox that have ray tracing also, for the most part, have their games on PlayStation and have ray tracing as well, and lists some third-party stuff like Watch Dogs Legions and things like that. He does mention Gears of War 5, but that's a last-gen game, and he also mentions that it's software-based ray tracing or whatever. I do feel like anytime people bring up, Gears of War, especially Gears of War 5, that's over 2 years ago, they're kind of stretching and reaching in terms of trying to make Xbox seem like they're being competitive in that area. Now, here's the thing. People go, oh, well, who cares about ray tracing, blah, blah, blah. I actually think that, ray tracing is really cool, and I think that it really brings out the best of these games. Even Call of Duty is doing ray tracing, and yet on Microsoft's first-party stuff, they're not really doing it. Even in like Forza Horizon 5, which I think does look good, you have a situation where Forza Horizon 5 is going to be doing ray trace sound or something like that, or when you're in the Vista mode where you're looking at it or taking pictures, that's not actually in game. And I just feel like it's just one of those poor situations where why not give people the option? I understand that anytime you do ray tracing that you're going to take a hit with the frame rate and performance and things like that. But if you look at how Sony has implemented ray tracing and things, I think it's pretty clear that you can offer multiple modes, and I think that Microsoft is really kind of afraid to offer a 30 frames mode or so, right? And the reason why I say that is look at the games that actually have 30 frames mode. It's like Flight Sim or something like that, and they got rocked for it, to be honest with you. And again, I just think that we see these types of things time and time again, and people are talking about it, but when you look at the Xbox side, they have the more powerful console. They're the ones that should be out there kind of going out there and, having amazing games that can do ray tracing and give you the option to have it. Like, how in the world can Halo Infinite not have ray tracing at launch? I know they said they're gonna add it later, but that's the same thing they said last year when it was supposed to launch holiday 2020. So, the fact that over a year later it still is going to launch and launch incomplete, I think that that's a problem. And none of their real flagship titles have had any kind of ray tracing. Like, we're looking for games that are really taking advantage of this, and so far there really haven't been any. And IGN can do their best to sit there and try to make it seem like, like Microsoft is better than what they actually are. But at the end of the day, I do feel like Microsoft kind of dropped the ball with ray tracing and a lot of the ways that these things kind of look. And for me personally, I love ray tracing. I think it's great. I understand the hit that it can take. That's why you don't just offer the one mode or whatever. It really makes sure to offer multiple modes, multiple options. It's all about options. See, here's the thing. Microsoft proudly touts options, right? They do. And Xbox fanboys proudly tout options. Oh, I love the option to play my game while taking a dump on a phone or on my watch or whatever, right? Yeah, I mean they love those type of options, but at the same time, it's like, they hate options to where you can actually have ray tracing and things like that, because I just think that it's cool to be able to have the option to play games at whatever frame rate you want, or ray tracing on or not. And I think that a lot of people would choose to do that. Like, when I play Watch Dogs Legions, I think it looks much better with ray tracing on, and the performance is fine, so I don't even notice the frame rate. But obviously a lot of people probably would much rather have the steady 60, and I understand that. Maybe DLSS and stuff like that will eventually enable us to have ray tracing, because I feel like putting the onus on native 4K is the wrong thing to do anyway. Because obviously, it doesn't really matter what the way that things are and the way that things look. To me, it makes more sense to actually go out there and have a game that's going to perform great at 1440p 60 frames with ray tracing, as opposed to no ray tracing, 60 frames and native 4K. It just honestly doesn't make sense to me, and kind of it ticks me off. But seeing the way that IGN is out there kind of making this seem like it's like they're out there basically just making it seem like Microsoft is competing in the ray tracing kind of world, and honestly they're not. It's not even close. They're not even in the same stratosphere. So with that being said, I will link this. You guys can check it out. Let me know what you think, because this is an interesting topic, and I would definitely appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for rocking out with me. Have a fantastic day. Rack 'em up, fact 'em up, crap gamer 'em up. Crap gamer out.
Turns out, the same people as always, dropping the facts. It's not cross-gen.